Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about the very important maiden visit of the Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, to China. As we all know that Mr. Bilawal Bhutto met the Chinese Foreign Minister, Mr. Wang Yi, in Guangzhou, and they talked about the bilateral issues and some very important developments also. Foreign Minister made his first bilateral visit to China. As I earlier mentioned, discussions were held on entire gamut of bilateral relations, support for each other's core interest that were reaffirmed. Now that is something very important that we'll be talking about, because if you remember earlier, the Foreign Minister also visited United States of America. He was there on a 2-day official visit to attend a conference regarding the food security and also held some very important meetings, including one with the Secretary of State, Mr. Blinken. Now Pakistan-China termed terrorism as common enemy of humanity. So that is again something very important. Both these countries need to work together in order to eliminate this menace. And furthermore, China and Pakistan determined not to allow anyone to damage Pakistan-China relationship, which is, as they call it, which is deeper than the oceans, higher than the mountains, and sweeter than honey. So, and definitely one important reason was also that the Foreign Minister, in fact, was there on the 21st anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relationship between these two countries. And last but not the least, China has appreciated Pakistan's commitment to the safety and security of Chinese nationals. Unfortunately, Chinese nationals and the Chinese, I would say, professionals, they have been a target in Pakistan, unfortunately, whether we talk about their engineers. And lately there was this bomb blast in Karachi University in which 4 precious lives were lost. 3 of them were Chinese teachers, I would say, there. And now this is something of prime concern. Now, how India is trying to dent China-Pakistan relations, that is going to be the core issue that we'll be talking about. But before I introduce you to our panelists, our production team has prepared a report. Let's watch that first.
Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is vibrantly representing Pakistan in the international arena and is successfully convincing the world that Pakistan is a proponent of constructive, equal and rational global engagements. In this realm, Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto visited China at the special invitation of State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi. During this visit, State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi and Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari held in-depth discussions on the entire gamut of bilateral relations as well as regional and international issues of shared interest. This visit was quite significant at the time when the terrorist activities in Pakistan are surging and trying to sabotage the Pakistan-China relations as well as the development and progress of the CPEC. This visit was a clear message to the adversaries that such tactics will not affect the China-Pakistan Iron Brotherhood. This was also reiterated by the two sides during this visit, as China and Pakistan both showed satisfaction on the steady growth of economic cooperation between China and Pakistan. Moreover, State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi and Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari agreed that China-Pakistan Economic Corridor has effectively improved Pakistan's infrastructure and boosted its socio-economic development and showed a firm resolve regarding pushing forward all the CPEC projects in a safe, smooth and high-quality manner. More significantly, the two sides termed terrorism as the common enemy of humanity. Pakistan in this regard reaffirmed that the efforts will be made to hunt down the culprits behind Karachi University Confucius Institute terrorist attack. Moreover, China appreciated Pakistan's commitment to the safety and security of Chinese nationals and vowed that Pakistan and China will further enhance counter-terrorism and security cooperation. Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari.
Now to talk about this, we have with us in our studio on my right is Dr. Professor Tughral Yamin Saab, Senior Analyst. Sir, thank you very much for your presence. And on Skype we have with us Masood Khalid Saab, former Ambassador to China. Sir, pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very much for your time. And we'll also be talking to Dr. Ghulam Saab, Senior Research Specialist of CAREC. He's going to join us on the telephone. Now, let me put the first question to you, Dr. Tughral Yamin. Very important maiden visit to China on the 21st anniversary of Pak-China friendship, sir. And ever since we recognized each other as I would say, great neighbors, let me put it this way, sir. But sir, one important fact, since I'll pick up the last point first, and let's start off from there. When we say that this visit is important, yes sir, it makes a lot of sense. They discuss the bilateral issues, again that has been the case even in the previous visits. But this time, sir, they has in fact, they have very categorically mentioned one thing, that the Indian effort, basically, let me put it this way, to destabilize Pakistan and China, to make sure that their common interests are not achieved, and on top, trying to dent Pakistan-China relationship, especially in the perspective of CPEC. Let's start off from there, sir.
Thank you, Faisal Saab. It's a very good question. A new Indian Army chief has just taken over. He is from the Corps of Engineers, the first of its kind, Manoj Pandey. And the first thing that he talked about was China, not Kashmir. This is a huge departure from the Indian defense point of view. They're talking about China. And he wants to buttress the Indian defenses on that side. So the Indians are also part of Quad, which is now Quad Plus, which is also meant to contain China. And they are America's strategic ally. They are also Russia's strategic ally. They are clever people. So yes, Indians are doing their best to sabotage CPEC. We know Commander Kulbhushan Yadav, a serving officer in the Indian Navy, was here. And one of the mandates that was given to him was to sabotage CPEC. So CPEC is important for us. What happened in Karachi University, in which a Baloch woman blew herself up, which was again first of its kind, a woman blowing herself up, a married woman with 2 children, needs a lot of motivation. So this is again a dangerous trend, and I'm very sure the Indians and other hostile agencies are behind this thing. So it's important for Pakistan and China to take note of this development. It's important for Pakistan and China to not let CPEC become a target of any malicious activity. What happened in Karachi University was, it was a heinous crime.
But sir, I fail to understand, we do understand that Al-Qaeda, they have their presence in Afghanistan. Tehrik-e-Taliban, Pakistan. I think Afghanistan is now a safe haven for them. You talk about ISIS, Daesh, or other splinter groups for that matter, and then BLA on top. So whenever they have a common interest, they'll always unite, and they are. This is what the intelligence tells us. Now the point is that if a woman was ready, who was educated, her husband was an educated person, who was the father, sister was in the medical college, what I'm saying is that it's not a typical ideal suicidal bomber that is normally picked up from Waziristan, who is 13, 12 years old, and who doesn't even know what he's up to. This woman had a family. She had 2 kids. And then I was talking about their ring, a woman with the name Wahida, then there was another one, Fahmida, and a similar name was of the third one. What I'm saying is that if there is a network, and they're trying to, in fact, convince these women, there has to be a reason for that. Obviously, there has to be a reason. Otherwise, why should they just go out and blow themselves?
Totally agreed. You can tell a young boy that there are 70 huris waiting for you upstairs in heavens. But to convince a woman who is a young urban woman with a family, with children, you need logic. And if this is succeeding, this is very, very dangerous. You see, this is a clear and present danger. But what she did was she blew up the teachers of Confucius Institute. So she was clearly targeting the Chinese. Before that, and she belonged to the Majid Brigade, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, exactly.
The famous BLA's Majid Brigade.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you recall, some time back, there was also an attack on the Karachi Stock Exchange. Again, there were elements of
Majid Brigade.
Majid Brigade. So these people, since Karachi is near to Balochistan.
Even sir, the attack on the forces in Balochistan, if you remember, again was claimed by them.
Okay, right. So Karachi is not very far off from Balochistan. Hub is the nearest place. People commute actually from Karachi to Hub every day for work. It's an industrial area. Karachi is our economic hub. It's the nerve center of all our economic activity.
That's true.
And so you were killing 2 birds with a single stone. So whatever has happened is bad, very dangerous. The Chinese were understandably very upset. They told our Prime Minister also that we want these perpetrators to be brought to justice. Poor fellow had no other option but to tell them that we'll try our best. And I'm sure he must be trying his best. The intelligence agencies must be trying the best. But I think if we go back to the visit of Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, I think it went off very well. The optics are very good. The 2 of them, Councillor Wang Yi and him cutting the cake together on the 71st anniversary of our diplomatic relations were good optics. And I think the 7 points that they picked up were again very good. They said They need to concentrate on defense. They need to concentrate on investment. They need to concentrate on agriculture. They need to concentrate on health. They need to concentrate on science and technology, and they need to concentrate on CPEC. And as you mentioned, both of them agreed that there is a very imminent danger from
Yeah,
India.
this is what was stated in the joint statement.
Yeah, and also they reiterated their stand on Kashmir. The Chinese did. So again, this is good for us because we are losing support on the Kashmiri front. So all in all, I think our young foreign minister did a good job of it. He was the body language.
Even his previous visit to United States of America is also looked upon as a very successful one.
It went very
the
well.
way he, in fact, gave the interview to Christiana Amanpour, plus the way he handled, I think, very articulate foreign
Most
minister.
of all, I think it was a very good thing that he actually defended the previous Prime Minister's visit to
Visit
Russia.
to Russia, yes.
Yeah, that was very good because usually what we do is we heap abuse on the
Unfortunately, this has been the case, yes.
Our opponents. So I think for his young age, it was a
Very mature.
very mature and very wise statement.
Very wise.
So these two back-to-back visits are good from the foreign policy point of view, and I hope it's a bit of a silver lining in our very murky and muddled domestic scene.
I'm sure, sir. It is always good to see the Chinese with a smile meeting our leadership. But let me also bring in Ambassador Masood Khalid Saab. Khalid Saab, couple of important points. First of all, sir, now the Americans, I won't say they have offered you an olive branch, but perhaps they have agreed to carry on with the talks, and perhaps at some stage things will be neutral, and later on I'm sure we cannot afford to be in the bad books of the Americans, but sir, still we need to have a certain equilibrium in place. Now when it comes to China and Russia, two major adversaries of the Americans, the visit of the previous Prime Minister in fact created a lot of problem as far as the foreign policy of Pakistan, and especially for the Americans, and they looked upon it as if Pakistan had shown its tilt towards Russia. But so this particular visit to China now seems to be a very successful one, and Masood Khalid Saab, on top, that confidence that should have been between these two countries is still there, and even if there was a slight damage to it, it's still restored. Now the previous visit to the United States of America of the foreign minister, and this one to the People's Republic of China, it seems that Pakistan is trying to create that equilibrium, that balance. That is going to be a challenge and a half, I'm sure. But sir, tell me one thing, that since you have been the ambassador in China, that how to create that balance, what are the areas where we really need to be very careful, because it seems that a step towards China means a step away from United States of America, and a step towards United States of America perhaps would be taken as a step away from the Chinese. Sir, your take.
I think it's a very loaded question and a very pertinent one in the given circumstances. But I think we need to be very clear. It was good that the visit to China took place after the foreign minister had gone to New York and met Secretary of State Blinken. And then immediately after that, he proceeded to Beijing. Now, as far as balancing is concerned, I think we are already following a balanced policy. We are not sort of promoting our relations with a particular power at the expense of that. In fact, the direction of the relationship, direction of the foreign policy is very clear, that we have traditionally enjoyed close and, friendly cooperative relations with China, have stood their ground for the past 71 years. We just celebrated our 71st anniversary. And with the United States also, we have had a valuable relationship which has contributed to socio-economic development of Pakistan in the past. Yes, there have been problems, and I need not sort of articulate problems in the relationship between Pakistan and the United States. But the very fact that the foreign minister accepted the invitation of Secretary of State Blinken, and the meeting apparently went off well for an hour or so, and also showing a softening of the American attitude towards Pakistan. A new government has come into power in Pakistan, and it made a move to sort of correct that impression that Pakistan was somehow uh, taking an US stance or a hostile stance, or if we were developing relations with China, it necessarily meant that we were not following the American line. That's not the case. But when we talk of equilibrium or the balance, we will continue to maintain this balance. We'll find a trajectory of our relationship with the United States based on areas which are of common interest, mutual interest. For example, if the United States wishes to help Pakistan in trade, education, IT, science and technology, and some industrialization of Pakistan, that would be welcome. Of course, it's our largest export market, the United States. We have a significant diaspora. Pakistanis are working, and Americans have been helpful to Pakistan. So we will continue to follow that trajectory. It's already a balanced approach. Now come to China. With China, we did not have any ups and downs in our relationship in the last 1 year. In fact, this relationship has followed a track which is satisfactory. And I would call this visit of the foreign minister sort of giving 3 or 4 very concrete and clear messages. Message of remembrance, that commemorate the 75th anniversary, remembrance, renewal of our age-old ties, reiteration, reaffirmation, and a resolve to carry forward this journey. So if you look at the substance of 15-point joint statement has been issued, I think it's quite substantive. Both in terms of optics and substance, the visit went over very well, because the language which is contained in this statement reflects the deep-rooted ties, the depth of this relationship, and the future direction of this relationship. I mean, we have clearly said that both countries will not allow anyone to damage this relationship. Now, this is a very, very, categorical and clear statement. The relationship with China has its own trajectory. Relationship with the United States has its own trajectory. And both countries realize, both these powers realize that it is good for Pakistan to maintain, friendly ties with the United States, with China. I don't think that we are going to face any major problem. I can give you 2 concrete examples. When in this Cold War time, when Pakistan brought United States and China together through that secret visit, we did not succumb to the Russian, the pressure of the Soviet Union at that time. We followed that trajectory. And on the CPEC also, if you look at that, there have been some pressures, but we know and we realize that this is in our interest. The CPEC is for the development of Pakistan, and we are not going to compromise. So my core point is, bottom line is, in my intervention, that relationship with China is non-negotiable. It has served the cause of peace and stability. It has provided us diplomatic and strategic space. Pakistan has been under tremendous pressure. China has been a steadfast friend, and we cannot compromise on that friendship. At the same time, we will follow a separate track of developing good, friendly, constructive relationship with the United States. And I think China has no objection to that track. And I am sure that the United States will also not will not come to a point where it dictates or where it tells Pakistan to ignore China or abandon its relationship with China. They all know that that's not going to work.
All right. Now, coming to you, Dr. Ghulam Samad Saab, couple of points. So we all know that all-weather strategic cooperative partners, Pakistan and China, shared, I would say, ironclad mutual trust and friendship. Sounds great. But now when you look at a very, very simple equation, let me put it in the context of a wrestling match where there's a tag team. Now, sir, looking at Pakistan and China, both are strategic partners. India and United States of America, both are strategic partners. Indians, adversaries, Pakistan and China. Americans, adversaries, Russia and China. So, I mean, China is a very common element when it comes to it. So, obviously, the interest of China is not in the favor of India as well as United States of America. One thing is very clear. And when it comes to CPEC, obviously, there's going to be a lot of check on that. Forget about India, but at least the Americans have very categorically mentioned that Pakistan should either slow it down or step back or do something. We can't afford to. This is something which is as important as a backbone is in a human body. Now, sir, creating that kind of a balance is going to be a challenge for the Pakistani foreign policy. How to sort of engage India, how to engage United States of America, how to sort of develop the lost mutual trust or the trust deficit, perhaps that is there and was there till, I would say, post 2011. A lot happened in that year, as we all know. Now, this is going to be a mega challenge. And looking at the current political scenario in Pakistan, sir, how do you see, sir, this government, whether it stays for another year and a half or perhaps early elections are announced? So, the political impact on the future course of action, that is going to be very, very important. Your take, sir.
Thank you so much, Faisal, for having me. I think you rightly bring in, I would say again, a big question. So if you look into the Pakistan-China economic relationship historically, and I will here highlight the economic relationship mainly. China is again one of the important exports destination for Pakistan, along with the Western-oriented countries. Similarly, if we look into the imports side of the trade, again, Pakistan has been relying more, especially after this CPEC. We got a huge momentum in the imports as well. However, if we look into the overall trade balance with China, though we had a FTA phase 1, phase 2 with China, but still there are the trade imbalances are there, but this is not an issue. The other economies do, like the USA do face a huge trade imbalances with China. So if we look into the historical overview, I can see a lot of the potential that does exist maintaining a high strategic importance with China, especially in the context of the CPEC that you brought in here for the discussion. I think the question that you brought here for the discussion is that we need, as a policymaker, need to see the geo-economic side more importantly, rather than more focusing here on the geopolitical side of the economy. So here, my view is that if you look into the CPEC, currently the cost, the overall security cost that you brought in here has been there. And recently, due to the slow pace of the CPEC, the figure has been floating there around $40 billion cost per CPEC as well. So I agree with you, there are mega challenges. And then for Pakistan, like for example, here we are relying more. If you look into the overall export value, it's been relying more on the Western countries, especially on the USA. But at the same time, we do have very important economic relationship with China as well. And especially if you look into the futuristic perspective here, in the CAREC whole region, like the Central Asian Regional Economic Cooperation, which consists of 11 countries, in China, along with Central Asia, Georgia, Azerbaijan, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, these are the main important components of the CAREC region. So I would suggest that we should not lose the CAREC region at the cost of having, like, a very good kind of maintaining a geopolitical relationship. So my take, sir, here is that I agree with you that there's a lot of challenges that you quoted, a lot of political impacts are there, but I think the focus should be on the geo-economics rather than focusing more on the geopolitical. So let me bring here two more costs that has been recently highlighted by the government of Pakistan that is again related to the CPEC that has been continuously I would say, bringing imbalances to this geopolitical and geoeconomic relationship as well. Especially if you look into the payments for the ICPs that has been due, that is around 300 billion. Similarly, if you look into the resolving of the issue of revolving accounts, that has also been there. So these are some of the considerations. Faisal Sahab, I think we need to be very careful, as earlier my colleague said, that we need to maintain a balanced relationship, but at the same time we have to look into the economic dimension as well, where we can basically strengthen Pakistan in terms of the futuristic consideration.
Obviously, sir, you rightly pointed out about the economic relationship. At the end of the day, it's economic diplomacy, whether in the form of defense deals or otherwise. Now, Dr. Saab, the two sides also have expressed satisfaction at the growing momentum of the bilateral defense cooperation. That is also very important, and the dependence of Pakistan has significantly decreased on the Americans and increased towards the Chinese. Whether you talk about the equipment that is almost parallel to S-300, which the Chinese have given us. I'm not sure exactly, it was MK-30 or something. You know, there was a certain J-20, again, J-10, sorry. And perhaps in the future, you never know about J-20s also. JF-17 Thunder, a mutual product that was again made. So many other deals. I mean, there's a long list. The equipment used in the high altitude against the Indians, let me put it this way, it's almost common between Pakistan and China, and that is what India really fears, that if there is something or there is a clash, Pakistan and Chinese can really cooperate very well as compared to what the Indians are thinking. But sir, my question is, if India can have strategic relationship with the Russians and they can eventually abstain their vote against the Russians in the UN regarding the Ukraine war, and they can still do their deals as far as wheat is concerned or even oil. United States of America Russia is going to be the fourth largest supplier of oil to India, and on deferred payments and on 30% discount. Americans couldn't do, though PICA is there, that strategic relationship. Sir, what exactly are the Indians doing in that regard? Because we also need to look deep into it, that how come they are creating a balance with the Russians and the Americans at the same time? Is it just because they have a huge economy? It's 1.5 or 1.4 billion people, and India is not looked upon as a country rather than as a market. Is that the case, or should we hail their foreign policy, sir?
You're absolutely right. All of these things. The Indians are a huge market. They might be very poor at the individual level, but they are also
almost 50 crore of their middle class.
And also they have the richest people in the world also, the Ambanis and Tatas and other people.
Adani.
Adani, exactly. So
over $100 billion worth
absolutely.
of assets.
So they can make the Forbes 100 list also. So India is a huge country, huge market, huge population, growing IT industry, Bangalore, and then you see that all the chief executive
$150 billion plus of export.
Yeah,
Imagine.
You're right. And then all the CEOs of the major tech giants are Indians. Name them and they are Indians. So India is a huge place, and then they have a very secular outlook. They do not forbid you.
Which isn't the reality.
It might not be the reality, but if you go there, they won't tell you that booze is haram. Go ahead, drink. You can go. You can go to bars and you can go to pubs and you can go. There's a nightlife in our country. All those things are forbidden, for good or for bad. But a foreigner.
So the Indian market is more attractive. That's what you're saying.
More attractive. It's
even when it comes to tourism.
Even when it comes to tourism. So India, and then I think their foreign policy is also very, very deft and intelligent and clever. They can handle all these disparate nations and still get away with whatever they want. You see, in 1979, when Soviet Union walked into Afghanistan, they held the famous or infamous Moscow Olympic Games in 1980. The entire so-called free world.
We boycotted, Pakistanis.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The entire so-called free world, including Pakistan, boycotted it. India did not. And yet after 9/11, they were among the first countries to offer their bases to the Americans. So they are clever people, they are shrewd people, and even now they are one of the biggest importers of Russian weapons, biggest importers of Israeli weapons, biggest importer of French weapons.
You name it.
You name it. They have got deep pockets. So all these things, and Modi, whether he's the butcher of Gujarat, whether he is
his popularity is gaining momentum by each passing day.
Absolutely.
Every election you see, and you'll be surprised and shocked.
So whether they are going to seal a mosque in Varanasi and say that the Shivlingam has been found in the fountain where you have to perform ablutions. It doesn't matter whether you
Even there are interesting stories about Taj Mahal.
The Taj Mahal, they say it's built on Indian temple. So whatever stupid things that they say they are getting away with murder. But people are bothered about Ukraine. Nobody talks about Kashmir. Nobody in the world will talk about Kashmir, or for that matter Palestine.
Or even for that matter, so Yemen.
Yemen, yeah, or Syria. But they will talk about Ukraine. They will cry hoarse saying that whatever is happening in Ukraine.
So at the end of the day, sir, again,
the
the Indian media is very versatile, I would say.
It's versatile.
And though certain channels are very hawkish, but I'm not only talking about the news channels. In general, whether through the IT or through the television, through the Bollywood or otherwise, and then the joint, sort of work they're doing with the American media.
Faisal Saab, I say that there are two big propaganda industries in the world. Number one is Hollywood.
Number two is Bollywood.
Second one is
It's
Bollywood.
a replica.
Yeah, absolutely. Now they have got the streaming services also. Netflix, they have got their Z. So we haven't captured the market. So they are
Because we were not wise enough to do so. We never thought on the right lines, actually.
We were never wise. Somebody asked me, why are the Indians dominating in the IT field? I said, the first Indian Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, decided to invest in the IITs, Indian Institutes of Technology, and they produced a crop of young scientists and techies.
Look at the number of PhDs they are producing. So we always end up comparing ourselves with the Indians. Come on, there are certain areas which you just can't even afford to.
See, in our case, I teach in NUST, which is supposed to be the #1 university. And when I look back, I don't find any other university which can compare. So if you talk of the IITs, which were established in the 50s, in 2022, there are...
Sir, I'll just give you one example and then I'll go towards the Ambassador Saab. That once I just looked at one of the book that was part of the syllabus of this Allama Iqbal Open. I failed to understand this Open University concept. And so, they were talking about innovations in which telex was talked about. Telex. It's an obsolete machine, which is so-called the innovation.
They teach about transistors.
Are you going to talk to them about the modern, forget about it.
You go to the schools and the book on computer in the syllabus tells about tubes and transistors and so many other things which are obsolete now. You don't even use CDs now. So they tell the students to study that and learn it by heart, by rote. That is what we are teaching.
So a lot needs to change, a lot, because, so this particular century, I would say, is the century of future. God knows another 20, 30, 40 years from now, things would be so different. I mean,
every day
there is an innovation. And look at what Silicon Valley is up to, and we are still stuck in the 17th century old school of thought, unfortunately. But sir, coming to you, because sir, I think we should also talk about where we went wrong. And if we did go wrong somewhere, we need to correct it. And knowing, because in management service you teach, it's said that half of the problem is solved if you know your problem.
We need to open up our minds.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Ambassador Saab, another very important aspect, sir, Pakistan itself is a huge target of terrorism. Unfortunately, because of the Western media's campaign and the Westerners normally end up setting the narratives, Pakistan is looked upon as a country which is a safe haven for terrorists, which is totally opposite than the reality. And this is what the Indian media has propagated for a very long time. And eventually this particular set of the Indians, or their perception, that's well bought abroad. Now, so my question is that Pakistan and China is also, both countries have also talked about the terrorism issue. This menace of terrorism needs to be removed. There are certain pockets where the Americans would try that the Chinese should feel the pinch. And when it comes to Pakistan, we are all very well aware of what's happening. So, sir, in this particular regard, and because this is also related to the Afghan situation currently, where, the Chinese are very indecisive what to do, whether to accept the regime or to sort of go against them, or, there is a complete full stop. It has come to a complete halt Your takes on that, sir. How can these two countries further manage the situation of Afghanistan and perhaps, work together to eliminate this menace of terrorism? Because Pakistan, unfortunately, is feeling the pressure, and that pressure is quite a lot, by the way.
Well, I think this premise that Pakistan is, somehow the hub or center of terrorism is absolutely wrong. Because in the last 5 or 6 years, uh, as a result of our successive military operations, we have, controlled this problem to a great extent. Now, what these hostile forces are trying to do, by these occasional bomb blast and targeting of Chinese and foreigners and this and that, they are trying to sort of disprove that Pakistan is now safe for tourism, for investment, for economic development. So this is the attempt by these hostile forces. And as we talk of this recent, attack on the Chinese in Karachi, we do mention India, we do mention BLA, we do mention PTA, but we do not mention ETIM. ETIM is working against China, and ETIM's objective is also to create problems for Chinese. So once, when we sort of look at the, reality of who is behind these incidents, I think we should also factor ETIM in that, sort of calculus. Now, secondly, yes, this is a problem for us. I'm sure that the government and our concerned authorities are working overtime to deal with this problem, because this is not in our interest to allow, such incidents to recur on a regular, sort of basis. So I think we are doing what we can do, and the communique which was issued speaks clearly of greater coordination and strategic communication to jointly deal with this problem. Two other things I want to say that I think I find in the discussions and these talk shows an unnecessary, sort of overemphasis, I think, on this balancing act which Pakistan has to perform somehow. We are already doing it. We are following balanced foreign policy. We are not sort of trying to damage our relationship with the United States or, with Russia. We are even keen to develop our relations with India. But of course, do not get the response from there for the reasons which you have very, rightly mentioned. So I think there is a need to sort of balance our thought process also, because we are very clear where do we have to go in terms of our foreign policy, and as far as our relations with the United States are concerned, and with China are concerned. And I would also like to recall that when this process of establishing relations with China started in early 60s, there was a lot of pressure from the United States, but Pakistan did not yield to that pressure, and we followed a different line. And result of that is before you, that we have this comprehensive, all dimensional, multidimensional relationship with China, which is giving dividends. Now about CPEC, also I want to say, you see, Pakistan-China relationship did not start with CPEC. CPEC is a new initiative, a new project, adding, substance to our economic dimension of this relationship. So CPEC, if CPEC is not there, that did not mean that Pakistan-China relations would face a slowdown, or will come down or will reduce. No. So CPEC has given an entirely new paradigm, an entirely new impetus to this strategic relationship. I also want to say a sentence or two about the trade. You see, when we negotiated and concluded FTA 1, saw that the trade balance was heavily in favor of China. So then we approached China and we said that as an emerging economy, Pakistan cannot sustain this burden. And Chinese responded. So both the governments entered into negotiations on FTA 2. We demanded our exports to China should be treated at par with the us exports to China, which means zero tariff of duty. So
All right.
Chinese agreed, and I think more than 300 products were given this exemption of on the basis of zero duty, from on export from Pakistan. So now it is up to us to avail that opportunity. We have to expand our export base. We have to go for value addition. If we
Sir,
fail
I
to
totally agree with you.
avail
But,
that
sir,
opportunity,
unfortunately, sir, I have been into this economic journalism for the last 22, 23 years. I'll just give you one example, sir. Look at the trade between Pakistan, Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. We have an FTA with Sri Lanka. Sir, we are still dependent on European Union, certain countries like UK for that matter, and United States of America. Never explored virgin markets in the Latin American side or Africa for that matter, the way the Chinese did. I mean, when it comes to exports, obviously putting a check on each and every export is not going to be a solution, sir. That is going to hinder your growth, and it will. We will see that in the coming months or so, sir. But we haven't been able to, and you're absolutely spot on. No value addition. I mean, when it comes to, doing so much, and we had the capacity, we had everything. And we were the country, which was one of the fastest growing in Asia, 8.4% growth rate. Can you imagine? And the interest rate was well under 5% at that time. I mean, things were so fine, but wrong decisions taken by various people eventually led to this. Now, a very important point, it's a quick comment, and then I'll move on to our dear friend Dr. Ghulam Samad Saab. The point is, sir, again talking about the Ukraine issue for that matter, that crisis issue has also been discussed in this bilateral meeting, sir. The two sides also reaffirmed the firm commitment to upholding the UN-centered international system. Obviously, that is also very important. They also underscored that Asia, which is having a very, very rich history, and since, when we talk about the South Asia or Far East or otherwise, a lot can be done in that regard. But one important point, perhaps, is the most important point, and that is about the bloc politics. Previous Prime Minister Imran Khan Sahab always said that we do not believe in the bloc politics. Sir, it is not practically possible to be out of the bloc politics. Quick comment and then over to Mr. Ghulam Samad Saab.
no, I think there is no bloc politics. We are not part of Quad. We are not part of AUKUS. It's actually in South Asia, India is a spoiler. Imagine if India were to cooperate and participate in BRI, and if India were to have good relations with China and with Pakistan, how much the region could develop. So that's the problem we have. Both China and Pakistan, we have this problem of India, which at the behest of, the United States is playing this role, which in the long run is going to vitiate the environment here. And in fact, it is full of risks of conflict and a perpetual tensions, so and not conducive to regional development and economic integration. Pakistan's focus is on geoeconomics, and Pakistan should not compare itself all the time with India. Let them do what they want. Of course, we should focus on our defense. We should focus on enhancing our capacity. We should focus on governance. We should improve our economy. These are our challenges, and we'll find our way. Our focus is towards West. We are trying to establish connectivity, with Afghanistan through CPAC and Central Asia and Russia. That's a good track for us. With the Americans, we'll follow another track of. I mean, it is not wise to go and challenge a superpower, and show that much of defiance and that is not wise. That is not diplomacy. We are dependent in terms of on IFIs, no doubt, but at the same time, if our mistakes, we are responsible for our mistakes and our
Absolutely,
policies.
absolutely, totally.
So I think there is a need for course correction, and China has been telling us all the time that look, whatever economic assistance and technical assistance we are giving, that is to help Pakistan achieve stability.
Exactly, sir. We have to think on those lines, but unfortunately, there are a lot of hindrances, a lot of problems. Sir, if you allow me, sir, Ambassador Saab, I'm totally running out of time, but last quick comment from the gentleman Dr. Ghulam, Samad Saab, Ghulam Saab, we have now included geoeconomics as part of our national security policy. Food security, water security, climate change, internal issues, external threats, so on and so forth. There's a long list. But from geopolitics to geoeconomics, I think, sir, they are all interlinked. Geopolitics, geostrategy, your geoeconomics, everything is interlinked, it's related. Now the question is, sir, moving from one towards another, sir, which is a part of your national security policy. Afghanistan comes into it. India will totally oppose it. All the adversaries of Pakistan will oppose it, sir. Now, do you think, sir, now what needs to be done and how should we accomplish this kind of a task? Samad Saab.
Thank you so much, Professor Saab. Again, a big question, but let me quickly summarize here. But before I answer this question, one of the questions that you asked about the concessional economic engagement between Russia and India. So my take here is that along with the market side that has been highlighted, I think one of the important factors that need to be understand here is the bilateral continuation of the economic relationship between India and Russia. That plays a significant role, definitely bringing a lot of confidence, but along with the confidence, that also bring alignment of the required infrastructure that has been required, for example, for any economic concession kind of agreement, whether it comes to oil or whether it comes to gas. Let me give an example. The European Union also considers this kind of a sanctions, but when they analyze the concessional engagement with Russia, from short to medium run, they are okay with the replacement of their technologies and their infrastructure for oil, but unfortunately for gas, they are not. So I think that kind of a consideration that whether you need to be aligned, especially on infrastructure in a short or a medium run, is very important. So I think the continuation of the bilateral economic relationship is being required here. And I think for us to be engaged with Russia or for any countries, we need this continuation. So let me come here to the interlinkages and then how we can basically develop these interlinkages. Faisal Saab, I agree with you, these are very important, and at the same time we cannot disintegrate it. But my only kind of a little bit emphasis here is that this geopolitical should not be basically affected by the geoeconomics kind of a place. So one of the, I think, the thing we can do right away is that I think we need a very holistic kind of relationship, especially with Afghanistan, that is very important from the economic point of view as well. As you have noticed recently, we had signed the PTF, the Preferential Trade Agreement with Uzbekistan, and I think all the roads to the Central Asia and to the CAREC region, including Russia, goes from Afghanistan. So I think we are really
all right, sir. All right, sir. Thank you very much, Dr. Ghulam. I'm so sorry to cut you because I'm totally running out of time. Thank you very much, Masood Khalid Saab, for your presence, and Dr. Saab, thank you so much that you came and you also gave your input in the program. And that's all we have for this hour. I'll see you inshallah tomorrow at 8:05 p.m. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.